So, Joes, time for another history lesson for the real American hero.
Wow, I think I saw this place on the Late Late Show.
Thanks, but you probably saw it on the 80s Toy Museum virtual tour, which just wrapped up. Thanks for all the great feedback.
I like your positive attitude.
Thanks, I hear that a lot. So, what better way to follow up that epic series than by picking up with one of the best toy lines of the 80s, G.I. Joe.
At last, a man with good taste.
The first installment of the history of G.I. Joe received a great response, but many out there might not know about the follow-up year, or may have forgotten.
Guess we'll have to teach him then.
I'll give it my best effort, Airborne.
100,000 pieces of gold says you can't.
No thanks. I don't make bets with terrorists.
I wouldn't bet on it, Lieutenant.
You wouldn't bet that I wouldn't bet on... Oh, never mind. After the successful relaunch in 1982, the following year saw reissues of the original lineup along with new, more personalized designs for the figures, and some more military-grade heavy artillery. Even though the 1982 Joes and Cobras were leaps and bounds ahead of Star Wars figures in terms of articulation, Hasbro pushed the envelope once again by adding Swivel Arm Battle Grip, which was proudly branded on all of the reissue figures from the first year, as well as the new 1983 figures. It made perfect sense. These were military figures, and a lot of them had rifles, which you have to hold with two hands.
Now there's an original thought.
Or vehicles that required more articulation at the elbow to properly grip the wheel or shifter, or properly relax in the pit. In addition to all of the first year figures and vehicles being re-released, 8 new carded figures were released, along with some new vehicles, artillery, and G.I. Joe's first playset.
Now with Cobra slithering around on the loose, we need all the help we can get.
With the ranks of G.I. Joe growing, a ride was required that could carry all of the personnel, so the APC was released. The carrying case from the previous year, which saw an 83 re-release, only held a dozen figures, and was literally just a case. It couldn't be used for play, but the APC was a vehicle that doubled as a case to hold and transport all your Joes. And I do mean all your Joes. It held an astounding 28 figures, including the driver and passenger side front. That's more G.I. Joes than had actually been released by that point. Plus, it wasn't just a land vehicle, it was amphibious too. The first Joe toy that could be used for water play, the APC could roll on land or float on water, even with the heavy load it was carrying. Then there was the Wolverine tank, which included the second female Joe, CoverGirl.
CoverGirl here, Duke. Not a reptile in sight.
And the notoriously easy to break tow cable. It packed quite a punch, both in terms of armament and ramming power. And the last man Joe ground vehicle was a nod to the north, the Polar Battle Bear. Now kids in the northern states and in Canada could battle Cobra with some gear that was a little better suited to the ice and snow. I recently did a Toys Gone Wild feature on this ski-doo, so be sure to check that out if you haven't already.
Sure.
A new towable armament was released with the Whirlwind Twin Battle Gun. Now Rock and Roll could put away his pea shooter and use something a little more heavy metal to punch holes in Cobra's forces. 1983 also saw the release of the Pack Rats, remote-operated armed drones.
Release Pack Rats now!
The missile launcher, machine gun, and flamethrower. G.I. Joe's equivalent of droids, or Optimus Prime's roller, adorable little robots that beeped and booped. The Joes got some major air support in '83, starting with the release of one of the most iconic toy jets of any toy line ever. Hello, gorgeous. This beautiful bird always makes me a little emotional.
The new Sky Striker's a real beauty.
The XP-14 Sky Striker. It featured retractable wings and landing gear, 6 missiles, and since everyone survives every dogfight in G.I. Joe, 2 removable pilot seats with parachutes.
Bail out! Well, we're out of the frying pan.
And it included the Ace of the Air, the aptly named Ace, who was always ready to use a card reference.
Time to reshuffle this deck.
This was the year the Joes could get to the chopper! With the Dragonfly assault copter.
3 guesses what's on it.
Let's see. The cockpit holds 2 figures, the winch hook for hauling cargo, and trigger-activated rotating chopper blades. And yeehaw! Yee-hoo! Behind the stick was Wild Bill.
Get along, little doggies.
And some familiar faces returned with recolored outfits to round out the Air Forces. Grunt received a tan uniform for his re-release with the huge Falcon glider.
G.I. Joe, Falcon glider, flying high in the sky.
A functioning heavy-duty paper airplane, basically. And the Jump jetpack now included a figure. Grand Slam traded in the HAL laser and his red pads for silver ones and a much smaller laser. And the first playset that wasn't mostly made up of paper was released. The G.I. Joe Headquarters Command Center. Or the Pit, as most Little Joes called it.
Well, if they're siphoning off millions, they sure aren't spending it on interior decorating.
Like the APC, it was a toy that you could play with that also served as a place to hold your other toys and gear. It had a bay on either side to hold vehicles, and a space for your file cards, because those were the spirit of the toys, right? Thanks again, Mr. Hama. Although the bays could hold a number of Joe vehicles, the divots and spaces were specifically made for the Vamp and the Mobat. There was a 2-level tray in the back to hold weapons and accessories, and even a place to hold some Cobras, temporarily, thanks to inept Joe guards. And if you could track down more than one, it's not too tough to add more vehicle bays. Although it wasn't designed to keep adding onto it. You'd have to snap these little pegs to make them fit perfectly flat. And it also included a helipad for the Dragonfly and future aerial vehicles.
It's Cobra.
The Cobras finally got some vehicles in year 2. There was the Cobra Hiss Tank with driver. High Speed Sentry. High speed in reverse, that is.
Retreat! Retreat! Retreat!
And the troopers could suit up in the snake armor.
Robot defenders!
System neutralizer armed cloaking equipment? So that's where Kenner got the idea from for Mobile Armored Strike Command with a K. And Fangface could get to the chopper as well with the Fang.
Be seeing you back at the old Cobra temple, mates!
Fully armed Negator Gyrocopter. Man, these acronyms. And Cobra got a glider of their own, the Viper glider, which included the Viper pilot. Much like Masters of the Universe, Hasbro kept costs low in the initial year by reusing several body parts for the figures and giving them different color schemes. Year 2 saw all new sculpts for the new figures and almost all new heads this time as well. This moved G.I. Joe one step away from being a similarly dressed battle unit and added much more personality and uniqueness. Now they were soldiers from all areas of the military with much more diverse specialties. In order to give kids more motivation to buy certain vehicles, some of the figures were specifically designed to go along with those vehicles. Airborne was the helicopter assault trooper who nicely filled out the extra seat in the Dragonfly.
It's one of my favorite things!
And nobody looked more at home in the Polar Battle Bear than Snowjob, the Arctic trooper.
Now we know.
And knowing is half the battle.
The Joes finally had a medic to patch them up with Doc.
Let's move them out.
Tripwire could hopefully lighten Doc's work schedule by detecting mines to avoid.
A little sweep and scan couldn't hurt.
And the Joe team added the military's cream of the crop with a SEAL Torpedo,
Hey, what's happening, landlubbers?
and let me address the boisterous Cajun Marine, Gung Ho.
I address you too, sweetheart.
A couple of new Cobra associates were released on card to help Cobra Commander.
I need no one's assistance, least of all yours, Destro.
The weapons supplier, Destro, was ready to verbally spar with the commander.
You psychotic, sibilant serpent of a dolt! Reptilian popinjay.
And Major Blood, the mercenary, was a bit more obedient, if the price was right.
Major Blood. Yes, Commander.
And Cobra Commander, who was a mail-in exclusive the year before, got a carded release too, along with new updates of the Cobra Officer and Cobra Trooper that featured swivel arms. After the success of the Cobra Commander mail-in figure from the first year, 2 more mail-in figures were offered in 1983.
Success? You dare speak to me of success?
Somebody got up on the wrong side of the castle. Major Blood was offered before he was released on card, and as Hawk transitioned to a desk job for a few years, the Joes received a new field commander, the Master Sergeant Duke, who'd be the face of G.I. Joe for years to come. For this initial release of Duke, no card and bubble was required. This top sergeant wasn't meant for display.
Didn't you read my green sheet? Man of action.
And that's the history of G.I. Joe 1983 edition. Things are only getting bigger for the real American hero. Stay tuned for the History of G.I. Joe 1984 edition. Until then, check out the Surveillance Port for all your current Joe news, and Cobra Island to discuss with other Joe fans. And if you're as big a fan of the art of G.I. Joe as I am, check out 3D Joes, the meticulously recreated and beautifully organized online museum of Joe art. And if you're interested in supporting this channel, you can either visit my store on TeePublic for official shirts, mugs, and other cool merch, or become a Patreon supporter, which includes exclusive videos like this week's closer look at the mobile missile system with G.I. Joe's original field commander, Hawk. Share if you like the video, leave a Joe thought below, and to join the tribe, hit subscribe. Yo, Joe!